The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, new outside bar, now open on match days.
There's a chance here, a great save. A turner from McClare. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving that.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all, we have Mr. Rich Davies, Dickie Owl, my darling. How the devil are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic, my lord, and thank you for calling me darling. That was very, very kind of you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, sweetie pie.
Stop flirting with me again.
I apologise, I've been told before. And my other little sweetie pie is on the line as well. Mr. Marriott, how the devil are you?
Do I not get a darling?
You got a sweetie pie?
Sweetie pie, come on.
He got a sweetie pie and a darling. I mean, it's not a competition, but he did get both. I only got one. I'd quite like a babe. Can I have a babe?
I'm sorry, princess.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's good to be. It's good to be here. I'm actually doing the podcast in my front room tonight, which very rarely happens. I'm normally in the kitchen, but I've got the last few minutes of the Manchester derby on the TV. And you know what I've realised watching this game, and this is a very generic point, but don't footballers point a lot? Like when they put the ball out for a corner, they turn around and they point. They're not pointing at anything. They just point. It's very much a footballer thing. Point a lot. Substitute comes on, he points. It doesn't mean anything. They just point. Footballers, they point. That's as insightful as I think I'm going to get tonight. So lap it up,
It's a
boys.
good point,
Lap it. Hey, point. Very good.
And that's it. So this evening we've got James's favourite sort of Grumpy Old Owls podcast because everybody else is off having young person fun, aren't they? It is Fudge's birthday, so we'll let him off. So he's out doing birthday Fudgy type things, which, to be honest, we're probably best off out of, aren't we? Eddie's off here, there and everywhere. Probably
gallivanting.
Gallivanting indeed. Probably sampling something sparkling. And Victoria, now are we allowed to say Victoria?
I'll say where Victoria is. She's at the Justin Bieber concert.
What a crock of shit.
She is touching herself ferociously as we speak.
If I gave you chaps a choice of going to watch Justin Bieber for the evening or going to watch a United game, which one would you choose?
That's a right choice.
Or jumping off a cliff.
Cliff and win every time.
Well, I personally hope Victoria's having a wonderful, wonderful, moist time. Right, let's crack on, shall we? So first things first is this QPR game that we all went and had a little nosy at, and it must be said that QPR were going great guns. Of course, our preview of the QPR game last week wasn't up to our normal standards because the person that does the research wasn't here, were they, James? So basically,
sorry about that. As you may have noticed, I was a little preoccupied with some beer last week. And you know what? This is a true story. I've still not listened back to last week's podcast because it's just too cringeworthy. I daren't. Like, I realised as soon as I finished on that call, and I thought, what the hell was I talking about then? Like, I actually had a really good time in Cardiff. My mate was like, God, you were scathing about Cardiff. I'm like, it was actually all right.
To be fair, a lot of our conversation that we had with you in the pub, James, did end up on the cutting room floor.
I can believe it.
And even a lot of those bits won't even make the Christmas special because they were just too of them.
Okay.
But no,
I apologise.
I mean, QPR were on a cracking run. Had they gone 5 games unbeaten or something like that? They'd been on a really, really good run. And I was a little bit concerned about this, but although the Channel 5 highlights didn't really show it, we played really, really well, didn't we?
Do you think Channel 5 actually had someone at that game? Do you think they just kind of looked at the stats and made it up? Because I've never heard a more untrue match report or unreflective match report as how Football on 5 talked about it. Look, I think there's been some difference of opinion in terms of this game. Now, I thought it was a really good, solid performance. I think we looked pretty much in control from start to end. Now, whenever you 1-0 up in a game for the majority of it, you're never really safe. You've never got it in the bag. but I never felt particularly troubled by QPR. They had a spell of possession in the first half for about 10 minutes, but they didn't do anything with it. They were one of the most boring teams that I've seen that really do literally just play it from one side of the halfway line to the other and back again. But I'm not sure that they hugely troubled us, to be honest. I thought that we were, we looked pretty secure, pretty safe, and good money for the win. I've heard other people say that they thought that we weren't to our best and that QPR played some good stuff and maybe deserved something out of it. So I don't know. I mean, it's worth pointing out that I was actually sober watching the game, which doesn't happen very often. So maybe I didn't really see it in the true way. I'm like the opposite. Most people watch a game after a few drinks and don't see it in the normal way. I watch it having not had a few drinks, and so maybe didn't see a true reflection of it. I don't know.
I must admit, chatting with you afterwards, you did seem quite compass mentis, and I was a little surprised, but that was probably as a result of Friday night's.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the truth of it, because I went to a beer festival on Friday night and drank so much I couldn't fit any more in on Saturday.
And for you not to be able to fit it in, Albin, that's a lot of ale.
I thought that, like most teams kind of have in a game, everybody usually has 15 minutes in a game. Even if it's a thrashing, they'll have that little spell. And I thought QPR did have that spell, but that's really what all I thought they did have. I thought we started to see the team that we saw last season again in Wednesday. We were closing people down. We were just doing the things we did last year, and that for me, just apart from scoring goals, which is it'll come, I think, and at some point I think there's some thrashing, but it was much better, I thought, on Saturday. And I had a little theory that it's Fletcher's obviously been out of the team for with his wife giving birth and everything, but did him coming out mean we played it more on the deck than going over the top a little bit?
It's an interesting point, isn't it? Because you would imagine, unless Fletcher's just not trained because of his personal situation, that in actual fact Hooper kept him out of the team, and that must mean that Carlos has been really happy with how we've been playing with Hooper in the team, and what he's added, and he scored the goal, he put in another good performance. You would think it's going to be tricky for Fletcher to get his place back against Derby now. You made an interesting point in there about how at the moment the goals aren't coming and sooner or later we're going to give someone a thrashing. I've got a slightly different theory on this regard, because obviously at full time on Saturday in the pub after the game, I'm not a massive fan of looking at the league table before Christmas, but it was brought up the fact that we're now up to 5th, so we're in the top 6 now, and a lot of people were saying that we've done it quietly, we've crept back up, that it's sort of gone a little bit unnoticed. We started this season as one of the clear favourites to go up. Some people had us down as favourites to finish in the top 2, and it didn't really suit us. We struggled a bit when we'd got that label, and I don't know if that's just the psychological side of it or not. So we made a bit of a slow start, and a lot of people forgot about us. We sort of became, they were dismissing us as, they've had one good season, they missed their opportunity. Back to to mediocrity for Sheffield Wednesday now, and as soon as people seemed to start dismissing us a bit, we started winning games again. So I think as soon as we turn around and give someone a thrashing and beat them 4-5-0, if we'd have put 3 or 4 past QPR, people sit up and take notice. And at the moment, we're going a little bit under the radar, and I think that suits us. So as much as it's uncomfortable for us as fans, we'd rather be winning games 3-4-0. I actually think that it's probably doing us some good at the moment, because no one's really taking that much notice. It's allowing us just to slowly creep up the table, go a little bit under the radar, and if we can keep doing that, it seems to play to our advantage a bit.
That's essentially what happened the whole last season, isn't it? We sort of crept about here, there and everywhere. We didn't start brilliantly and then really just made a push at the end. Now, if we can sort of keep creeping about in the playoffs and then give that great big push at the end, I think it's going to be brilliant. But do you think that there is sort of this expectation that the players have now had lifted from their shoulders? Because I expected us to come out flying this season. I should imagine a lot of fans probably did. And do you think the players are just a little bit more relaxed now that they've had a chance to settle in, and maybe that little bit of expectation has been removed slightly?
However you look at it, if at the end of the season, if we told now if I said to you, we'd finish second, and we'd be playing kind of like we have been doing, scraping the wins, getting the 1-0s, getting the 2-1s, and we'd finish second, would you take it?
Hell yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it'd be absolutely fantastic. But you've got to admit, I mean, even whilst the QPR game was happening, there is that chance, isn't there, that they're going to grab a goal. I mean, we saw Tom Lee's clear one off the line when Cameron came sort of running out, and we saw some belting saves, just to mention it as well, by Cameron Dawson as well.
Yeah,
He obviously, his first full game in, he made that little bit of a scuff mistake clearing to start with, and then obviously saved a shot from that one. But one of the saves he made was Westwood-esque, wasn't it? It was absolutely beautiful piece of goalkeeping. Sorry, that's as an aside. I forgot what I started waffling about. That particular game, there was the element that it was, although James said we were comfortable and it sort of felt that way, but there was that little bit of, oh, crikey, they could put one in here and we're chuffed again. I just want, and I've said this time and time again, just one nice, relaxing game where we can enjoy.
It's not the Wednesday way.
No.
Well, it bloody should be. We need to change the Chuffy Wednesday way.
I mean, you actually got a mention up where we were stood, Lord, on Saturday, on Saturday, because we were talking about squeaky bum cream.
Yeah, that's true.
And we said it'd be all over you, or was it you'd be all over it, one or the other?
Ooh. That's all. It's true, and I was absolutely convinced that QPR were going to equalise, and I was cursing us like, we've not put this game to bed. We've had the chances to get the second, we've not taken it, and QPR are going to equalise, and that chance really late on when Dawson came out and it ended up with Tom Lee's clearing it off the line. I was like, oh, this is it, and I was convinced that was it. My mate John was the same. He groaned because we were waiting for the net to bulge. We thought this is the one. But this is not the Sheffield Wednesday that we have anymore. We kind of expect the worst a little bit. But other than, I think there was the Birmingham game, conceding late goals is not something that we particularly do. We've got quite good concentration, and we can see games out generally. So yeah, I mean, if we can win if you can guarantee me that we can win games 1-0, then great, I'll take it. Of course, in reality, it's not going to work like that, is it? And it's going to be more stressful doing it that way. But you only get 3 points for a win. It doesn't matter if you absolutely thrash a team 4-5-0 or whether you win 1-0. It's 3 points for a win, and that's what we're getting at the moment. And how we get those wins is probably not hugely important. If the performance is terrible and we're scraping wins, that's not sustainable. But the performances haven't been terrible. The performances have been increasingly good. I think that it was probably as good as we've played at home on Saturday against QPR. Maybe not quite as good as the performances at Brentford and at Huddersfield, but still a solid performance, and we were well worth the win. And whenever you're good enough to win games, you're going to win games. I know that's like oversimplifying it, but that's the truth.
The cherry on the cake is doing it in a way that we love sitting and watching. I mean, it is good football, there's no doubt in that. But it's the cherry on the cake. He's doing it every week, winning 3-4 goals every week, etc. That's the cherry on the cake. The bread and butter is promotion, however we do it, and we have to win dirty sometimes.
As we've said, QPR are no mugs either. They didn't really do a great deal on Saturday. I don't think we saw a great reflection of what that team's about, and particularly when I got inside the stadium, and for once I could actually see the scoreboard and read the players on it, and I was like, I don't think I've heard of probably 3 or 4 of their team. I know who they are. The rest of them, I've got no idea at all. Hard to think that they were in the Premier League just 2 years ago. But like we said, they were in the Premier League 2 years ago. There's certainly no mugs, so we've got to put that down as a good, solid home win, and it puts us right back up there at the top end of the table. We've got that. I'm gonna have to admit here that I've looked at the table, haven't I? But there's that group of like 4 or 5 teams that's just looking like it was starting to pull away a little bit. And I know it's early doors, but we've just got to stay in touch with that. We've got to stay in touch, and we've done that. We've done that.
But actually, because you weren't here last week, James, well, you were in drunken spirit, if you like. We did have a sneaky little look at the table last season. Similar sort of thing we mentioned last week, that there is a group starting to break away slightly. And as you say, we do need to sort of keep in contact with that group. And I mean, the actual football itself, do you think sometimes, and this is a point I've seen batted around once or twice, Carlos wants to entertain our fans at home, doesn't he? He wants that type of football. Do you think maybe there's a bit of an emphasis on the entertainment rather than the let's just stop them scoring goals and be nice and let the fans calm down? Do you think there is that sort of element of Mr. Chansiri who wants the football to be exciting? Carlos wants the football to be exciting.
I don't know. I mean, exciting football in theory should result to games with lots of goals.
20 now.
And something like that. You know, I mean, beating Bristol City 3-2 at home is an example of, you know, the kind of game that you'd expect when you're playing that free-flowing football. You know, the game against QPR on Saturday could have been 3-2. It just happens that it was 1-0. It certainly wasn't a boring game. Carlos isn't an idiot. He's no mug. Yeah, you're right that he's got a style of football that he wants us to play. But he wants us to win. He's not daft. He knows it's a result business, and there may be times that we need to go out and win games in a way that's maybe not as entertaining as others. But you know, he's proved by the fact that we finished in the top 6 last season. He's proved by the way that we're going this season that, you know, he's certainly, you know, he knows that results are important, and he knows sometimes he's got to sacrifice, you know, gorgeous, beautiful football in order to grind out those results. You know, the win at Blackburn, for example, wasn't it wasn't a stunning, kind of gorgeous football, total football, whatever you call it, victory. It was a ground out win. Yeah, it's less so at home. You're right, but you know, it's Carlos wants us to. He wants us to do well, doesn't he?
I'm going to drag you right back to an era that even you might struggle with, James, and that's the 1983-84 season. when we were in the old Division 1, so second tier, and Howard Wilkinson was managers, and we got promoted, and he bought a player who he knew would get us out of that league, but wouldn't be any good in the Division 1, so the Premier League as it is now. And that guy was a guy called Tony Cunningham, who was a striker. Lord H will remember him, no doubt. And he scored a bagload of goals. And he was just a big, cumbersome even, striker who just put himself about and got probably 15, 20 goals that season maybe. But then we binned him straight at the end of that season. And he went to Newcastle, I think, bizarrely enough, who were then in the second tier. But the point is, that sometimes you need to get a player or play a certain way that will get you out of that league, like we did in not so long ago in League One.
I think getting out of League One, you do sometimes need to take that tactic, don't you? And you need just some big lumps, and you need some physical players. The Championship now is so full of quality. It's probably the standard that the Premier League was just maybe 10 years ago. I don't know if it particularly works like that now, but you see so many players, don't you, that win promotion with a team which is the Premier League and then get sold straight back to a Championship team. You know, it's happened tons of times, and it's not unusual.
Absolutely, that's where Fessy and Abdi came from, essentially, isn't it? It's
absolutely. You see loads, you know. Bradley Johnson, when Norwich went up, they sold him to Derby, and a few players that you kind of think, they deserve a crack at the Prem, and it very nearly happened with Jordan Rhodes as well, didn't it?
Absolutely.
And still might do in January, and I've still got a list of things that people promise to do as and when he does sign for us. But, you know, we'll come to that in a couple of months' time. While we're talking about QPR, then, because I think there's a few individual players that are worth talking about, and Rich will remember this because we talked, you know, long and hard in the pub after the game about a few players, and one particularly that I found this really, really interesting. Equal numbers of people saying he played really well, and equal numbers of people saying he had a really bad game, and that's Adam Reach. There doesn't seem to be any sort of consensus on this. I thought he had a cracking game.
So did I.
He was all over the place, and yet I've seen people on Twitter saying, "Oh, he was really poor. One of his worst games for us."
I couldn't pick anybody out from Saturday that had a bad game. I thought they were all they were all kind of, I wouldn't say in form, but they were all kind of, they all did a job. Everybody did, you know. There's nobody that stood out or didn't stand out, as it usually is when somebody's not had a good game. But I thought Reach played all right. I don't understand that one at all. It's a mystery.
It really baffled me because I thought that, you know, he certainly wasn't our man of the match, but, you know, he wasn't far off. I think he put in a really good performance. He was all over the place. He really adds or complements the fluidity of our midfield. And you know, if all of us were to kind of say now where we thought Reach was playing on Saturday, we'd probably say somewhere different because he was all over the shop. They were swapping and changing and all sorts, and you know, it just seems to work with that midfield as it is now. Great to have Bannon back in form as well, and that does make a huge difference. The other guy that I want to talk about as well, who was my man of the match on Saturday and I thought was absolutely rock solid, and that's David Jones. And I think him getting a run in the team now is having a huge effect. It is so significant. I know I've bored people and listeners to this podcast to death in the past, going on about that defensive midfield position and how important it is, and how, you know, when we didn't really replace Hutch properly, and Bannon isn't a defensive midfielder, whatever we might think. David Jones coming in and really starting to get to grips with that position and what he needs to do, and it really has made a difference. And I thought he was awesome on Saturday once again, after, you know, 2 or 3 really good performances in a row now from him. And, you know, you talk about players showing that bit of Premier League quality and that bit of Premier League intelligence. He oozes that. He really does.
I mean, I think it's the Wednesday fans. We're very impatient. We always have been. And when somebody comes, we expect them to hit the ground running. And I just think it's just taking a little bit of time just to kind of, for him to set for David Jones, what are we going to call him? Jones.
It's got to be David. We don't want to mix him up with the other one, do we?
It's just when I said, it's when I said, I know, it's when I say, I think of him every time. I have like flashbacks. Just scares me a little bit. But I just think he's taking a little bit of time to settle in, and now he seems to be kind of doing that job, and he's the right man for that job. And my kind of man of the match on Saturday, and it's literally because of his double tackle, was Hutchinson. But they ran each other very close.
They were, and the strange thing is that the Championship official team of the week, the only Wednesday player to make it into that was Tom Lees, who almost the guy that we take for granted a little bit, and even he admitted that he wasn't happy with his form in the early season. You know, how banging form is he again now? He's had a few great games, and he's going, you know, great guns. We
all have bad days at the office, don't we? So, you know, we can forgive anybody. We all have days when we can't, you know, we go into work and we're knackered and can't be bothered, and, you know, and try and give us all, but it's a little bit different with football, isn't it? You know,
it is. And I wonder how much of this, you know, for players like Lees and for Jones now settling in, how much of it was about us just getting towards a point where we've kind of got a settled ideal first 11 now, and there's 1 or 2 positions in that are always going to change. You know, it might be Hunt, it might be Palmer at right back, it might be that Bannon drops out for a game and someone else comes in. But generally speaking, now we seem to have got a little bit more of a settled idea, don't we, of what particularly our ideal midfield is. I think so. Yeah, I think that's 4 or 5 games in a row now where we've had David Jones playing that deeper role. We've had Lee, Bannon, Fessy in front of them. You know, Wallace comes in sometimes, but it's still generally the shape is sort of the same. The fluidity is there. I think the unfortunate thing is, and I know we're going to talk about it a bit later on, that it's hard to see how Abdi fits into that now, because I think the start of the season the problem was we were trying to fit all these players in, and it meant sometimes, you know, we were inevitably going to play people out of position, and it just didn't quite sit right, just didn't quite work. Now that we've sort of said, right, okay, let's not bother trying to do this, we can't fit everyone in, players are going to have to miss out, and it's started working more now.
Before we do finish speaking about QPR, can I just give a little shout to Mr. Hooper, of course, who obviously scored our solo goal. Wonderful bit of control off his face, James. I know when people usually say off his face to you, it's in a different context.
Sorry, what exactly are you implying here?
It was a lovely bit of sort of nose control, wasn't it? Brilliant. So yes, well done, Mr. Hooper. And of course, had a decent game as well, I thought. The other thing from the game itself is Carlos speaking about the strikers after the game in his post-match. Give a little bit of his tactical nous in his one of his quotes there. He said, they think, speaking about the strikers, I am here. I have a role to do. I must do this when that guy goes there. I must do that when that guy goes there. And because of the dynamic, we score goals. Now, how insightful is that into Carlos' tactics, ladies and gents? But
that sounds like a Carlos quote of the week. That's good.
He's an absolute genius. The other sort of little bit of thing from the QPR game was a big congratulations, or even congratulations, to the Wednesday and QPR fans. First of all, for the collection before the game for breast cancer care, who managed to collect £1,513.60, which is their biggest ever collection at a football match, which is brilliant news. And of course, the silence, or tribute more than silence, should we say, to the death of the King of Thailand, which, although it was very well respected, it's just a little bit sort of somber, and obviously we saw the pictures on the screen and all that kind of thing, and it was very well done by the fans, I thought.
I spoke to a friend of mine last night who's Thai. And she doesn't very often come to Hillsborough. Her other half is fairly regular home and away, but she wanted to make it to this one. And I said to her, it was, from our perspective, it's quite weird having 2 minutes silence for somebody that we can't really relate to, because we don't know a lot about him, the King of Thailand. But the words she used was that she was really proud of all the Wednesday fans. And it was quite an emotional moment for her to listen to how well 25,000 people respected somebody they didn't or don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I went to Thailand a few years ago, and it's a strange country, Thailand, because politically it's quite unsettled. You know, kind of revolution and overthrowing the government happens quite a lot. The one thing that has been a consistent right through, and which everyone agrees with in Thailand, is how brilliant the king is. So, you know, they've had all kinds of different prime ministers and different presidents, whatever they call them. But the king has, you know, remained the constant throughout, and kind of, you know, holds the country together. So, you know, it is a massive deal. And I'll be honest, I was just a tad worried beforehand, thinking, are people going to get this? Because I thought, if people don't respect it, you know, knowing how kind of important it is and how proud the Thais are generally, that, you know, it could really upset Mr. Chansiri. And I think that, you know, we saw the opposite of that in terms of the fact that he released that statement the day after, which really came from the heart. You know, he was, you know, absolutely, you know, blown away with how well respected it was. And I thought it was really tastefully done. You know, I've got to admit, I was kind of stood there while it was going on, thinking, this is quite bizarre. You know, it was quite an unusual thing. We got a song playing that I had no idea what it was, and kind of looking around at a lot of people who were just like, this is, you know, no one finding it, but you know, kind of silly or anything, but just like, you know, this is really unusual for us. This is something different for us at a football match. And you know, sometimes we're not always that receptive to new things, but everyone, you know, really went with it. And yeah, I think a huge well done for everyone for, you know, helping make our chairman really proud of our football club.
Absolutely. And of course, the QPR fans as well, very well respected from the away fans too. One thing that you did mention there, Jay, which is something we've not really touched on a great deal, 25,000 at the QPR game. Just short of 26. Cracking attendance, that, really, isn't it? Really is a belt in attendance.
Big well done for QPR bringing 150 or whatever it was that they they brought with them as well. Yeah, that was great. I don't think it wasn't a particularly cheap game, was it? It wasn't one of the super cheap ones, so there was no offers on or anything like that. It was a really good crowd. It was a bit of a quiet game. I don't think there was a huge atmosphere there, but it never felt like it was an uncomfortably quiet atmosphere. It just felt like a very kind of settled atmosphere and a nice game of football to be at.
Absolutely.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, a wedding or anniversary, maybe you've passed your driving test, or you've landed a new job. Well, whatever your reason for a party, the Riverside Cafe is the perfect location on Catch Bar Lane overlooking Hillsborough Stadium. To inquire about hiring us for your function, call 07989 856 054 or 0114 232 6121.
Right then, ladies and gents, so that's the QPR game all done and dusted. Let's move on with the scant little bit of Wednesday news we have for this week. And the main bit of news come out is that Mr. Palmer has now signed a new 2-year contract at the Wednesdays. Now, Mr. Palmer is somewhat of a figure that's causes controversy within the Wednesday fans. I personally am very, very glad to see that he's signed. He is a Wednesday mainstay in my eyes. Obviously not the greatest ever player we've had in that particular position at right back, but I think he does a brilliant, brilliant job. And I do think he's pushing Mr. Hunt for that position as well, which is fantastic.
Do you know my theory? I think Ramon, seems to have disappeared. I think he's under his patio round the back of Liam Palmer's house. He's had Ramon.
It's a Brookside moment, is it? Is
Absolutely,
it a Jimmy Corkill?
Yeah, and he's coming out and he's got rid of
Ramon is no more.
I've got to admit, I was a little bit surprised, and I guess it's a funny one with Palmer because I think we all sort of love him, don't we? And we all have moments where maybe we doubt if he's really up to it in terms of where we're trying to be now and what we're pushing towards now, and the level that we want to be playing at is Palmer really there? And more often than not now, I think he is. I think that the last few games he's played in, he's consistently played really well, and he's consistently done a really good job. And I think he probably deserves it. I think he deserves his new contract. Would he come with us into the Premier League if we got promoted? I don't know. I'm not sure whether or not he's up to that standard, but I think he deserves a bit of a crack at it. And my opinion has probably changed a bit of him in the last few weeks. Well done to him.
I'd agree with that. I think he's certainly he took the bull by the horns and come in, and when he's played, he's not let us down at all. I think before he was a bit hit and miss, but now I just think he's got a bit of consistency to his game, and that can only be a good thing, for whether he gets the spot or Hunt does.
We would have had a similar conversation about bringing Palmer from League One to the Championship, wouldn't we? Because back then he was a similar sort of player, and clearly he's grown with the club. Because when I see Palmer's name on the tee sheet, I'm not worried about right back, not in the slightest. When I see Palmer's name on the tee sheet, I think Carlos is trying to lock this one up a little bit. We're playing a more defensive game. I don't worry that I see his name.
It's like we talk about squad rotation, and the clearest example that we've got is that right back position, isn't it? Because certain games we play Palmer, certain games we play Hunt. I thought Hunt actually had a really good game on Saturday against QPR, and he was one of the players that I thought about mentioning in terms of the fact that it was one of the best performances I've seen him have in a Wednesday shirt for some time. Having said that, Palmer came on and didn't put a foot wrong either. He played really well and has done for the last few games. It's weird, it was only probably 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that me and my mates were saying, in January, we need a new right back. We need a quality new right back because the two that we've got are a bit average. And we actually said maybe we need two. Maybe we need two new right backs. We have to give up on Hunt's that sort of a bit of a liability defensively. Palmer is stronger defensively, but doesn't add as much going forward. They've both shown that the side of the game that maybe they're not known for that they can do. Palmer probably should have scored at Huddersfield, but got himself in a great position, and Hunt looked really solid at the back on Saturday. So I don't know what the point was I was trying to make, but there you go.
I think the point you're trying to make there is what we need to do is we need to get Mr. Chansiri to plough some money into gene splicing and have a Palmer Hunt mix-up called Ramon, and that'll sort all that.
What would you call it? Would you call it punt, or would you call it Harmer?
Yeah.
It's a good job. It's a good job his name's not. It's a good job it's not called Karma, isn't it? Because then we'd have a problem if you were to splice those two together. If you see where I'm going with that one.
Right, the other bit of Wednesday news. We had a player in the paper, haven't we, James?
Well, kind of, yeah. So I noticed that I think it was the Star that did a bit about Carlos talking about Alman Abdi. Now, I found the Abdi question and the subject of Alman Abdi quite interesting because he was probably the signing that we were all most excited about in the summer. He was the one that we had a slightly sleepless night, didn't we? Worrying, thinking, oh, he's not going to sign, and then quite late on in the evening it was confirmed. And then since he's been here, it's just not really fallen into place for him. It's not really happened for him. The games that he's played, he's been a bit disappointing. And it was interesting, Carlos saying that because he joined us quite late on, so he didn't really have a pre-season. So the games that he has played in so far have kind of been his pre-season. And I wondered if I found that a little bit reassuring, because I've got to admit that I've wondered whether or not you see this sometimes where a player does really well at one club, goes to another, and it just doesn't happen for them. And I've been a bit worried that Abdi is that player for us, really, that came here with a lot of expectation, adored by the Watford fans, really well thought of by his previous club, and it's just not going to work out for him here. And so I wondered if I just take a little bit from that and think, maybe we shouldn't write him off just yet. Maybe Abdi's still got a role to play when he really is fully up to speed. And we're in November next week, aren't we? It's a tad worrying that he's not that Carlos feels he's not quite up to speed yet, and that's something that Carlos has got to work on with him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. Does that give us a little bit of confidence that maybe we've still got something to come from Abdi?
I think we're in a good situation with them, because at the minute, after all the kind of, can we fit Abdi and can we not, we kind of probably found now in the midfield four that are probably going to seem to be playing okay. And I'm not going to get too excited after one game against QPR or whatever, but it seems we might have kind of cured that issue. But what a good thing is, it doesn't put any pressure onto Abdi then to have to come in and perform. He can take a bit of time out, relax, just get himself up to the point where he's firing on all cylinders, like I call the Watford's fans saw in him, and hopefully it'll a little bit of time, a little bit of patience with him. We'll see that.
If I was to be playing devil's advocate, which of course I am very good at doing, is there an element of this that we have a £4 million substitute basically here? Do you
Great,
think?
isn't it?
Yeah, it is, which is brilliant. But is there a possibility that Carlos could be under some sort of pressure, spending £4 million on a player that hasn't really sort of shone? Because it's a lot of money, £4 million. Do you think maybe Carlos, and of course I love him to bits, we all do, playing devil's advocate, do you think Carlos was just trying to say, well, just give me a little bit more time? I know I spent £4 million on this player, and I know he's not really playing. Could it possibly be that he's wasted a bit of money there?
I mean, possibly. I don't know. I mean, I kind of get a little frustrated with people over this kind of thing, because people say, "Oh, well, he's cost this amount, so he should be playing." It doesn't, he's not cost us anything. It's Mr. Chansiri that spent the money, yeah. And that's for them to discuss whether or not they think, oh, maybe we spent too much on him or whatever. It doesn't matter. He's just a player for us. Whether or not he comes on a free transfer or they pay money for him, whatever, it doesn't matter. He's in the squad at the moment. He's not been performing well enough to be getting into the team, and let's hope that he does. The fact that it costs £4 million doesn't really matter, does it? Kieran Lee's worth more than he's worth. Let's be fair. He didn't cost us a bean.
Yeah.
Again, just playing devil's advocate, Bobby. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fair question. You're right in the respect Carlos is not going to come out and say, yeah, Abdi, he's just not very good. Sorry about that. I thought he was. £4 million. I thought he was good, but no, yeah, I've really screwed that one up. Of course, he's not going to say that, but he's not going to be that well thought of by Watford fans. I've said before, I've got a lot of time for Watford fans. I find them quite considered, and I think that they're quite good at seeing things in a clear manner. And for them to say that he was their best player for a couple of years, if not longer than that does mean something. There is something in this guy. It unfortunately is just not quite happening for us right now.
Absolutely.
I think being realist, not every signing works out. Hopefully this one will, but not everyone does. That's just reality, isn't it?
And let's be fair, it doesn't matter at the moment, does it? We don't need him right now.
No.
We're not crying out thinking, oh God, so and so's not playing very well. We've got to get, we need someone to be playing in central midfield. We've said before, we've almost got an embarrassment of riches when it comes to central midfield. And actually having someone that's a little bit out of form does us a bit of a favour. It removes an issue there. If everyone's playing really well and you've got to keep someone out of the team, it's fine for him at the moment not to be in form, but we're going to get injury problems. We're going to get a glutton of games as we get towards Christmas, as you always do. We do need him to be able to come in and perform, and to take his chance. If he comes in and plays brilliantly, and then we've got that question then of does he go back out the team or does he keep his place? And I kind of look forward to us having that problem.
At some point, he'll get an opportunity, whether it's through an injury or whatever. He will get that opportunity. So. We'll see how he kicks on when he comes in.
We'll look forward to somebody getting injured. Absolutely.
Injured. I did say, someone a reason.
Yeah. We all know what you meant, you nasty little sod. A bit of good news from your side for the Wednesday week, Rich Albeen. I believe we had a bit of a milestone on Twitter this week as well.
Yes, we hit 4,000 followers this week. Yes, yeah, not massive. I'd love more, but no, we've done really well in the last few months, and all of us pitch in with that. With all, so you never know who you're gonna get responding when you send a message. But please do send your tweets in and follow us, and we'll try and have a bit of Wednesday week banter with you.
And quite often you might get 3 or 4 messages back from the same message because we don't check to see if anybody else has sent one. So we probably
it's like liking our own post on Facebook. Somebody does that. I'm not sure who it is. Any clues?
Well, to be honest, I'm not very good on Facebook, as I might have mentioned once or twice before.
I've mentioned that, yes.
and to be honest, I've given up on it now. Have it, bloody Facebook. If they're not going to have a loyalty on Facebook, they're not going to have it. It's as simple as that. But no, thank you ever so much for everybody that follows us over there on Twitter, and keep doing so. Pass it on to your friends, and as I say, it's only going to get bigger. Apparently. Right, and I think from a Wednesday news point of view, is that around about it, chaps?
I can bring you some breaking news as we talk now, which is not particularly Wednesday. Well, it's not at all Wednesday related. But I've just been watching the aftermatch coverage of the Manchester derby, and Manchester United have a team of 11 people who are currently mowing the grass. 11 people it takes to mow the pitch.
Boy,
at Old
you're
Trafford,
loving
apparently.
being on this podcast tonight, aren't you?
Here's a question. Where would you find all of the following in one place? Chairs, tables, beer, Vic, James, more beer, Dick Yow, Eddie, more beer, and the rest of the Wednesday Week gang. That's right, it's the Riverside Cafe's new outside bar. All of your favourite lagers, ciders, soft drinks and hand pump ales are now available outside. Come and see the gang and give it a try. The Riverside Cafe's new outside bar. Now open on match days.
Now, as we are having a Grumpy Old Owls podcast this evening, I'm going to whip out my book, boys and girls.
Whoa.
On this day, yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's making a comeback.
Is that like Where Are They Now?
It's very much like it, but...
No, that was crap, that.
On this date, which I'm going to say, because we're probably a bit late with the podcast, I'm going to just have a stab that this will be up on the 27th of October. And on this day, on the 27th of October, 1992, within living memory for a lot of the people listening, Wednesday beat Leicester City at Hillsborough in the 3rd round of the League Cup. Guys, can you remember this game?
Yes. Was that the one? Was that the last-minute Mark Bright winner?
No.
Well, we won 7-1.
Oh, right, that was the 7-1. Yes.
So there wasn't really a last-minute winner required, but 2 of the goals were scored by Mark Bright. Anybody else?
Someone got a hat-trick.
Nobody got a hat-trick.
Gordon Watson got a couple.
Gordon Watson got 2. Spot on.
Chris Bart-Williams got 1.
Nigel Bradley-Jemson got 1.
Not Chris Bart-Williams, no.
Chris Bart-Williams got 1.
And Nigel Worthington?
Nigel Worthington got one. One more.
Oh bloody hell!
Are you looking this up on the internet?
No. This is I'm a sad bastard. This is actually from memory.
Well, we know that, but I'm just
One
Who's got
more
the other
from
one?
our goal-scoring hero Wednesday legend.
Oh, Viv Anderson.
No, the other goal-scoring hero Wednesday legend.
David Hurst?
That's the chap, absolutely. To be honest, I've not got a chuffing clue who scored the Leicester one, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not really bothered. But no, I'm sure there's a lot of Wednesday fans out there of our generation, boys and girls, the grumpy old owls that will remember that one fondly. And if you're just slightly older and slightly grumpier, you might also remember our goal-scoring Wednesday legend, again, on this day, on the 27th of October, 1987, scored a last-minute winner at Oakwell against Barnsley, of course.
I remember this one. I was there that night. What a night that was.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Not too long after he signed.
I remember going to my dad's rubbish old, was a space, it had a moon roof on it. It was a space cruiser, that was it. A Toyota space cruiser.
Fancy chopper.
There's a few of us went across it in it, and I remember on the way back there was Crazy Nights by Kiss on the radio, and it was, and they said the Crazy Nights, it was David Hurst got sang to it.
David Hurst. Yeah, it fits. That's good.
Got it. Yeah, it works. Yeah, it was good. It's a last minute diving header. Oh, and boy, did we go a little ape while we were in the 40.
Have we possibly just stumbled across a song for George Hurst there? Georgie Hurst. That might work.
Use it for that too. Yeah.
But the thing is, this is Grumpy Old Owls. A lot of the people listening to this don't know who Kiss are, unfortunately.
They were referenced in a Robbie Williams song. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, Robbie Williams is not exactly what you call current, chaps. Unfortunately, even our newer references are probably from about 10 years ago now as well. We're getting really, really old. But no, it's brilliant to have a little nosy back at all this kind of stuff. And if you are a younger owl, this was when we used to get excited before Twitter, before Facebook. We used to have to talk to each other and read the greening about this kind of thing, and phone into odd little football shows called Football Heaven and get told to naff off.
You used to have to sit in the pub on a Saturday night and wait for the man to come around selling the greenings, and then the fish man to follow him selling the cockles and mussels.
I used to ring the club call line 0898 something to get the latest news. It would have this awful message at the beginning that was, calls to this number are charged at £1 per minute. If you are not the bill payer, please hang up now. In a moment, you will hear the latest news regarding your team. Sheffield, Wednesday. And it would last about 3 minutes, this recorded message, before you actually got anything. When my mum found out, she went absolutely apeshit. I was grounded for weeks. True story.
0898 12 11 86. That was a number. That's really sad, isn't it? I remember that.
What happens right now? No. Right. So let's crack on then, shall we, boys and girls? Because we've got the derby match coming up. And again, I know I say it every single week, but this is rather an interesting affair, this one, because Derby, who were topped to be a fantastical team this week, haven't been going grey guns, have they? Of course, they're sort of stuck down towards the bottom of the table, and I think they're waiting for that one good win to kickstart their season. And I'm just hoping that we're not their one good win. Of course, Mr. McLaren has been rehired by Derby after being sacked by them last year, 18 months ago, something along those sort of lines, and now he's back after Mr. Pearson has left. And do you think we're going to be a victim of the new manager bounce for Derby?
I think my theory for this one is the theory I have for all games is what would you take before the game? And before the game, I'd come away from there happy with a draw, I think.
But I think chuffed.
But let me finish.
That's disgusting. You should be ashamed.
But there's the potential to come away with 3, I think, from Derby.
We've got to be going there aiming for 3 points, haven't we? Because they're in a bit of disarray. Their top player is out, suspended. I don't know if they're going to be quite there in terms of getting their shit together for this one. you are quite right in the respect that you would think at some point, Derby are not going to finish in the bottom 6. At some point, they're going to turn their fortunes around. They've got good enough players to win games. In fact, they're probably good enough to beat anyone in this division on their day. So it's just finding the formula that's going to work for them, and it all falls into place. Could happen on Saturday, and we could be on the receiving end of it. I think it's of the games that we're playing in this little kind of grouping of games that we're in the middle of at the moment. It's potentially actually probably the most difficult one, because of the fact that we're playing against a team that need points for a start, that have got the new manager thing there, although he's not really a new manager, and I'm not sure that he's going to have the excitement of the crowd behind him like an actual new manager does. I don't think they think very much of him. I don't think they're that bothered about having him there. But it's a great opportunity for us to go and just clean up. Really, it's a great chance for us to go there, show what we can do, how well we can play it away from home at the moment. 4 games unbeaten away from home if we get a result at Derby, and could be 3 wins out of 4 if we go there and bring back 3 points. It's probably as good a time as any to play them. There's always going to be that risk that they turn you over. We do, however, have a pretty crap record there, don't we? We've got a bad record at the iPro.
They've had a bit of misfortune as well there, because they've got a young lad on loan from Man United as well, haven't they? What's his chuffing name? James Wilson. He's off with a cruciate ligament injury. He's actually gone back to Old Trafford to get that taken care of. Of course, their big player Will Hughes. To be honest, I think he's in sort of contract negotiations. He's not far from coming to an end, so that's all up in the air as well. And the one thing that Derby and Wednesday had in common last season was Vidra, who went off to Derby, because we were sort of in that hunt as well, weren't we? I wonder if he's regretting that now.
I wonder if he falls into that category of players, that's just a bit overrated. Because I saw him play a couple of times last season for Reading. Didn't really do anything. Certainly didn't pull up any trees for Reading last season, and he's done very little for Derby this season, has he?
Absolutely. He should have come to the Wednesday, and I'm sure they put 15, 20 in by now. But that's what you get, boys and girls. That's what you get. Right then, ladies and gents, another bit of exciting news is the Cop End Facebook group. Our friends over there are releasing a app for your mobile device. It's not specifically a Cop End app. It's got all sorts of Wednesday news on there, but it is also going to include the Wednesday Week podcast as part of the app as well. So if you'd like to listen on there, you can do. James, I believe you had a bit of a catch up with Cleggy, didn't you? And have a little chat about this whole endeavour.
Yes, so I caught up with him, and really I knew nothing about the app beforehand, as you'll gather as this interview goes on, that I didn't even know what it was called. So you can find out all about it in this short piece that follows. Hit play. Cleggy of the Cop End fame.
Hello,
now,
James. How are you?
I'm really good. Now, there are 2 things in this world that I love, right? One is Sheffield Wednesday, as we all know.
Yeah.
The other is my iPhone. But you know what's rubbish?
You mean the phone that's stuck in front of my face right now?
That's the one, yeah. This one, right here. You know what's really rubbish is there's nothing that bridges the two. At the moment, there is no good Sheffield Wednesday app. There's the official one, which is just the Football League one, which is a bit rubbish. There's a few unofficial ones that are a bit rubbish. If only someone could come up with something that would bridge that gap, that would solve my problem.
It's funny you should say that, actually, James, because for the last 3 months we've been planning such an app. Just for you, actually, and for people like you. So basically, so this app, we've got the forum, we've got official Wednesday news on it, we've got the Wednesday Week podcast, which will be on it every week. We've got quite a few things. We'll have routine stuff like fixtures, match reports. But yeah, it's all in one place on your phone for Android, for iPhone. It's going to be for anyone to use whenever they want.
That sounds brilliant. Now, I imagine this is going to cost me an absolute fortune, isn't it, for something that's that good?
Well, I'd like to say yes, it would. But unfortunately, it's going to be free for anyone to download onto their phone. If download's the right word, I don't know. I'm not a technical guy. All I said to some app developers is, If only we had an app. And they said, oh, we can sort that out for you. So, like I said, for the last 3 months, they've been sorting out this app. I think it's pretty good. Hopefully everyone else will think it's pretty good. But all they can do is download it and try it out for themselves.
So it's available for iPhone, it's available for Android.
Yep.
Is it as simple as you go to your app store, you search for the Cop End and it's there?
No, you search for SWFC fan app. I didn't want it to be for the Cop End because it's not just for the Cop End. For me, it's a fan app. So, like I said, there's going to be podcasts from the Wednesday week on it. I'm more than happy for other fan groups to. So Wednesday night could have something on there if they wanted to. It's started off. We've put a little bit of meat on the bones, but it's. As we are at the minute, it's probably about 50% of what it will be. Hopefully, it'll get bigger and better. The more feedback we get from it, the more we can add and make it better for every single person that's out there.
Sounds brilliant. I'm going to go and download it. Thank you.
No problem.
There you go, ladies and gents. There's the Clegster. So if you're listening on a Saturday, pop over to your app store, whether that be the App Store or Google Play, and you can download the app right now. Right then, chaps, any other Wednesday news for this week?
I have a couple of bits, and this is the latest in our ad hoc feature of Local Lad Done Good, where we have to give a mention to Jamie Vardy, who is probably now the most successful Sheffield Wednesday fan in the game of football ever, because he was this week nominated for the Balloon d'Or. Who I think is probably the only Sheffield Wednesday fan to ever be nominated, and probably the closest we'll ever get to having a Wednesday player win the bloody thing. But yeah, he's in the final 30. He'll not get any further than that, will he? He's not going to win it. But you know, for a Wednesday fan, for a Sheffield lad who's gone from, I don't know if you know this, but apparently he was playing non-league football 4 years ago. I'm not sure it gets mentioned enough in the media that.
I've not heard that.
Not mentioned. No.
You know, he has done amazingly well. So you know, I think he deserves a mention on our little podcast.
I've got an even more tenuous link to the Ballon d'Or, because I was looking earlier about Sheffield Wednesday and the Ballon d'Or, and as you'd suspect, there's nobody ever been kind of that's played for Wednesday or playing for Wednesday been nominated for it. But I was trying to look for something a bit tenuous, and I actually found something. And the closest I got was the Semedo Cristiano Ronaldo link, and that's as far as I got with it. That's as close as I ever got to it.
Semedo once had his photo took with it. So to be honest, I think Mr. Vardy would be much more thrilled getting a mention on our little podcast than being nominated for the Ballon d'Or. So you're welcome, Mr. Vardy. It's our pleasure, Obi.
One other thing from me, which was something that really made me laugh. There was a Bolton game on the TV on Monday night, which I didn't watch. I think it was Bury against Bolton. The lineup that they had in the studio was Kevin Davies and Ryan Lowe. Have you seen the little clip that's going round of when the presenter says something like, "Oh, you know, Sheffield United are one of the best teams in this league, or the team to beat in this league," or something, and like Kevin Davies agrees, and then Ryan Lowe says something like, "No, there's only one team in Sheffield, and we all know that." It was brilliant. It's a great little. It's a great little moment. I'll retweet it now, so it'll be on my It'll be on my timeline if you want to have a gander at it.
Fantastic. Oh, I love a bit of Ryan Lowe. Absolutely love it. And if people would like to see your tweeties, James, where can people get all that over there online? And I think I might have just called you Jane, James. I apologise for that.
It's all right. I mean, normally that's a weekend thing, but I don't mind it so much now. Yeah, you can get me at James Marriott. Definitely not at Jane Marriott. That's my other profile that I prefer people not to look at, if I'm honest. Anyone that is off to Derby on Saturday, me and my motley crew will be there. I don't know exactly where we're going to be heading. We've got a bit of a route planned, but if you're around and you fancy a pint, as ever, drop me a tweet. If it's anything after about 1:30, you'll probably just get like some strange characters back that don't actually make any sense. It won't be words, but yeah, be good to catch up and have a pint.
Rachel Davies.
Rachel, Jane with a beard sounds a bit weird. I'm sure I know her. Anyway, yes, you can find me at Dickie Owl on Twitter.
Fantastical. Of course, you can get hold of me over there as well at Lord HL0RD_H. You can get hold of the podcast and be one of our millions of followers. See if we can get to 4,012 before the next game, shall we? At TWWcast over there as well. You can find us on the Facebooks, which I will be staying well away from because I'm not sure if I mention it. I'm not great with Facebook. I am a gentleman of a certain age, ladies and gents. And of course, you can find us on YouTube and in all the usual places as well. It's been a pleasure, as always, ladies and gents. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Be good, be safe, and we shall see you real soon.
Real soon.
There's a chance here. A great save. A turner from McClare. Terrific goal by Sheridan.
Rexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
And if JMP, well, a par player.
Easy you to say.
Thank you.
I thought you made an interesting point in there, and I've completely forgot what it was. So you're gonna have to give me a minute to try and think of it again because it was interesting. Oh yeah, I've got it. Hang on.